Thank you guys for coming today. My name is Lisa Phillips. You all know me from AffordableRealEstateInvestments.com, or even if I'm new to you, I welcome you to the site. I'm glad you're here today. That means that you finally had enough of all the investing advice that just doesn't make any sense whatsoever, and you're ready to find something that does. A lot of the investing advice out there doesn't really reflect the reality, and it really excludes a lot of people from getting started if you only listen to that advice. So I have ways of you finally getting the real information you need so you can make the best decisions and start investing in real estate at a price you really can afford for what you want to do and what your goals are. So thank you for coming, and I'm glad you came along for the ride. And let's get started. So getting started in real estate investing. And I will go through the process of how to find and fund low-cost, high cash-flowing rental properties that cater to your budget, not the other way around. Now, structuring a plan to getting started, and this is what you really have to do because you have some decisions you need to make first. And some of you aren't quite clear by the time you get here, so I sort of made this so I can help you. So what aspect of real estate investing do you want to be a part of? And I'll go over these briefly and tell you some of what I think the pros and cons are. You can buy and hold, and that is my preferred choice. I like it because you can get monthly income that you can live off of, as well as an asset that you can hold long term and sell for the money invested in it, or even get appreciation in the end. But all that time, you have something that is paying you money. It is my preferred method because that is how you can obtain real wealth, and that's how you can get net worths that are really high because you retain all those assets that can be sold eventually in the future. Flipping is another thing. This is when, a very popular term. If you go to HGTV, all they talk about is flipping, I guess because it's so sexy. It's quote-unquote fast money. That's when you go into a house that's undervalued, you fix it up and renovate it, and then try to sell it for an after repair value. I do not like flipping because unlike buy and hold, you have a lot of tax implications. Buy and hold, you get a lot of tax shelters with the maintenance, repairs, renovations of the property, as well as depreciation of the assets you use in the business. Flipping, you don't get those same benefits as much. You have a lot more capital expenses versus maintenance expenses, which means you don't get that quick deduction that you were always looking for. Also, if you sell that house, you have capital gains tax to pay on that. And I don't know who wants to pay taxes on every single time that you sell this property. You don't get as many of the shelters. You no longer own the asset, so you can't take depreciation and other items that usually come along with buy and hold. So because of tax implications and because I've seen quite a few people get this wrong, I see people spend 3 months on a project, they get the after repair sell value wrong, and at the end of the day, with all the money they invested to purchase and to renovate and time spent, they might profit in 3 months $5,000, but the amount of hours and times they put into it, might be they might be at a wage of $8 an hour, working every weekend on it for that kind of money. I like to say you can do something else. You can get a part-time job at Home Depot and do better than that. So I'm not the biggest fan of flipping because of mostly the tax implications, as well as a lot of people get the after repair value wrong. So if you were to do it, I would highly recommend you do it with a mentor who's been successful. Otherwise, you're going to make all the same newbie mistakes I continuously see. Now, wholesaling. This is when you go out and you find a house, you put it under contract, and then you find another person to purchase the contract. So your value is to present to, say, investors or homeowners a house that you found and that you sort of acquired in your name to sell to them at a profit, and you charge $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 for it. I'm not the biggest fan because I've seen so many people not get one contract after spending hours doing it. And again, I go back to the hourly wage thing. It sort of goes down to $1 an hour, where you could have gotten a part-time job mystery shopping and done that. You could have done way better than that. To me, it's almost like slave labor, the amount of running around you do to present properties to investors. And usually when you're new, you don't understand that the price you might be asking for might be terrible. And I know I get a lot of wholesalers who, before I spam them, send me properties, and I'm looking at them like the numbers don't even make sense, but they're new into investing, so they don't understand that nuance. So they usually are giving you a lot of trash unless they're more experienced and then get into wholesaling. So it's sold as this, you don't need money and you can earn money. But I see a lot of people not find anything for how much time they spent. They could have done a side business selling Vonage or Cutco and done better. And secondly, when they do it, I mean, it's the amount of time and effort that they spend into it. They should have spent cleaning up their money situation and cleaning up their credit so that they could be rental owners for the amount of money they make, or just get a part-time job. So not the biggest fan because it's a lot of your time invested, but maybe you have more time. I assume most people are like me where they have family, friends, work obligations, so you just don't have that time to do all that work to only get so little in return. And I just think you'd be better spent fixing your own money profile, which you're going to need anyway for any type of investing, because you have to prove that you can hold and make money before someone else is going to trust you with theirs. So there's other things too, like tax notes or tax liens, where if there's a lien on a property, you purchase it. If they don't pay it back within a certain amount of time, you can foreclose on the property. So you can get a property for the cost of the tax lien, which is the tax obligation plus lawyer's fees. So, you can get a house for $7,000. Who knows if it's worth it or not, because most of the times you haven't seen this house or know who's in it. And it can be pretty okay, but if they do pay, you usually have a percentage plus any fees that you had to pay to the lawyers to get the paperwork done. So you get all your money back plus maybe 10 to 13% interest. So it's a nice way of being a little safe, not really getting your hands dirty or too dirty. But, people have been successful, made $2,000, $3,000. It's a lot of work to get that $2,000 or $3,000. And of course, I go back to, you get a nice cash flowing property, you can make that much in 5 months with not doing anything. So, amount of time to effort is what you do. And there's a lot of other different things you can do. I am a big fan of buy and hold, like I said, for tax shelter reasons, as well as monthly cash flow reasons, as well as building assets and real wealth that you can either pass down or sell 10, 20, 30 years in the future. And that is what I advocate for people. So first, you need to make that decision before you even start. It's really easy for some people, and others are all over the place. But I suggest all at least go buy and hold. And what budget you're working with. I like to say this because you don't have to have a $400,000 budget to get started in real estate investing, even though that's what everyone's told you. They say as a new investor, get something local, get something in a good neighborhood. Well, a lot of us who have money to invest live in D.C. We live in New York City. And that's why we have money to invest. We get higher cost of living and higher salaries. But that doesn't mean that we want to buy a D.C. house for $400,000 that's a fixer-upper. So figure out your budget, and then what comes next, I'll be doing in part 2 especially, is showing you how to find a market that fits your budget. So figure out the budget you're working with. Are you working with a $50,000, $100,000 budget? And once you find a budget, you can look for the market that facilitates what you want. All the cookie cutter advice has been, for the most part, it doesn't matter what your budget is, do this in this way in this neighborhood, but that's why so many of you haven't gotten started yet. And I'm glad you're here, because I'm telling you, no, you find your budget, we find the market for you. That simple if you really want to do this. And how bad do you want this to happen? I say this as well because someone emailed me and they're asking, I wanted to get my own house, but I also want to invest in rental properties. Should I get my own house first or go with my rentals first? And to me, that's a question you're asking, but you shouldn't be, because you should know already. And I say that because I was living in a dumpy apartment in Arlington, Virginia, paying $1,500 for rent for one bedroom that had bug issues. And I had 3 properties, cash flowing at that time before I had my own home. So what do you want? Do you want a home or do you want rental properties investment? So, living in Arlington, I'd have to buy a $400,000, $500,000 townhouse or something to live there. And trying to do that and invest doesn't make any sense. So I wanted the investments before I needed my own house. So when you ask that question, that's really a personal question. And I say, how bad do you want it? Because if you really want it that badly, is it really a question? Aren't you going to start making the sacrifices that you need to do to make it? And the bigger thing that is that I find people aren't willing to make sacrifices. They want it to come easy. Well, put your money in the stock market that just took a huge fall because some people in the UK decided to leave the European Union. So that's easy. You don't have to think about it. Just put it in the stock market. But if you really want change to happen to you, you really, really need to understand that you might have to put something aside to want it. And if you come to my side or you come to me for help, I want you to understand that I am not promising any get rich quick. You have to work and you have to sacrifice to get what you want because you only make so much money, right? So out of that money, you have to decide where it's going to go. Is it going to go to your investments or your own personal lifestyle? I, at the time, needed the financial security that the income brought me. So I was all in on putting my extra money towards investments. But that's the question you need to know. You need to understand. So when I say, how bad do you really want this to happen? When you're ready to have this happen, you'll understand that you need to make some sacrifices. And you'll also understand you wouldn't need to ask the question of which one do I get first, my own home versus rentals. You just go do it. It's which one do you want the most, but you only have so much money. So you need to decide where it goes. But you can't have everything. That's just not the nature of how money works and how we earn money. So when you're getting started, it's all about, you want to educate yourself, of course, right? You've heard told so many horror stories. And even with all the information on the internet, you can still get horror stories. So education and resources is extremely important. I like to liken it to the stock market, which I don't play. But it doesn't matter how intelligent you are. You can always lose money in the stock market. Why? It's a new financial skills. Doctors are smart. They lose money. You know what I mean? Judges are smart. They lose money in the stock market. It's a new skill. And unless you go with someone who's done it successfully, you shouldn't expect you're just going to go there and blast it out when there's been people who are more educated, have spent more time than you, who still lose in this game. So, like I said, real estate investing is the same thing. It is a new financial skill. It's a new financial skill set. It is not the same as doing the ordinary thing you've done to make money. It's all about return on investments. So you can use a lot of free resources and sites. So before you go, you need to figure out what you're doing. If you're doing flipping, you need to be on a flipping site. If you're doing wholesaling, you need to go to a wholesaling site. If you don't know yet, I like bigger pockets, but in a limited capacity. But it has in a limited capacity, and if you want low-cost rentals, you have my site, Affordable Real Estate Investments. But first, you need to niche down and not just read everything that comes across your page because you don't have time for that. So what I'm telling you to do is focus on what you want to do. Hurry up and make that decision and then go down that path. And don't be stopped by shiny, mobile homes, this, more tax. Focus. Whatever it is, if it's tax liens, you go all in on tax liens until you know tax liens and know how to make money on tax liens. If it's rental properties, you go all in on rentals and do rentals, and that's it. And you have to go to places who are doing exactly what you want to do. When I say I like bigger pockets, it's good. But when I started talking about sub 30K houses or lower income neighborhoods, there were like crickets when I sent out something when I started a few years ago. No one was talking about it. So I created my website to talk about it. And I have a mastermind group that's free on Facebook to talk about it. And we're all going back and forth, but I would see new investors go there and going, hey, I found a $15,000 house out here in Wyoming. What do you think? And you'd get 14 responses from people who don't do that price range, don't do that type of neighborhood, aren't comfortable with that demographic, telling them not to do it. And then all of a sudden, you'd finally have my post at the very end going, you can't listen to you can't ask people all over the country what you should be doing in this price range if they don't have any experience in it. Just because you have experience in $90,000 price range doesn't mean you're going to do good in a $30,000 price range. You need to go to the source and niche that focuses specifically on what you do, because you can't ask people with other experience to think that translates to yours. When I go into my neighborhoods, it is different than when I go into a higher end neighborhood. In a higher end neighborhood, I might be looking at schools, and I might be looking how nice it feels and whatnot. Whereas when I go in my neighborhoods, I'm like looking at crime reports. I'm looking at, not necessarily the school. If it's across the street from one, good, but that's not the major priority like you do with these others. So if you're asking someone who's used to this mindset, well, they're going to say, well, none of these criteria work, so no, don't do it. But you need to understand that criteria doesn't work in this price range. You look at different set of criteria because it's a different demographic and different group. So you need to know exactly what you're doing, but you need to ask the right people or go to the right sources. And there's only a few of us on Bigger Pockets, and I'm sort of like I was like the cheerleader. Now there's a couple people signing on. But you can't ask people in, say, Louisiana about your property in Montana. It's just different. So understand that all of these sites have limitations because real estate investing is local a lot of the times. Or like I said, you just can't ask somebody who goes to A neighborhoods how to appropriately approach a C or D neighborhood. You have to ask a successful landlord in a C, D neighborhood how that's going. And so that's what you need to understand too. So every time these new investors got there, they got shut down, but they're asking the wrong people. You ask the wrong people. If I ask my mom for advice on real estate investing, I'm going to get her advice, which is she doesn't know anything about what I do. And that's what new investors want to do. Stop it. Stop doing that. It's so frustrating. First of all, it doesn't make sense. But secondly, it doesn't help you. And you're going to get the wrong information. So go to the focus on your niche. You have to go to who is doing exactly what you want to do, be it from tax liens to flipping to rental properties in low-income neighborhoods. And that's when you start asking questions if you want to get the right answers or get answers from people who don't know what they're talking about. Your choice. I don't have time to waste with people who don't know. So there's pros and cons to websites, books, and mentorship. So let me tell you, if you pick up a book, you're going to be getting a lot of solid advice. So that should always be your first go-to if you don't want to spend any more than $5 or $10. You go to Amazon. Personally, I like Audible because I like to listen to books while I go walking or doing the dishes or something because I don't have time to just sit and read a nonfiction business book like that. So books should be your first thing. If you guys don't like reading, you can go to maybe websites where the articles are a little shorter and compact, although it's not necessarily always step by step. Just understand with websites, there's a lot of free information, but there's a lot of differing information. How much time do you have? Websites are good, but sometimes it's too much information and it doesn't have the context like, say, a book or a mentor or coach would. You can find this one little article, but then it doesn't answers 5 more questions that you really, really need to have answered because it can cost you money if you don't. So that is a limitation. And you see people who are like, oh, just go to Bigger Pockets or Lisa's website. You'll get all the information you need for free. Free is good, but free is you get what you pay for. So free means hours. Free means hours of your time searching, trying to get the answers to those 5 extra questions that one little article sparked. How much time do you have? Some people have extra 20 hours trying to get free information, whereas this is when mentorship and coaching comes into play. They're like, I don't have 20 hours to answer 5 basic questions. That's why I like having a mentor, because I can call them up and in a 10-minute conversation, I can have the answers to questions that took you 20 hours. So it just really depends on the amount of time that you have to do this. I just say don't fall into the trap. It's okay to pay for education in these fields. Just make sure that, A, the person you're getting the education from, like, and trust. And that's it. I sell books on real estate investing. It's A to Z. It's everything you want to know. I do coaching and mentorship that's paid. But guess what? By the time you talk to me, you have seen 50 of my videos on YouTube. You've seen the other 60 that are on my email newsletter. By that time, you know me, you trust me, and you like me. And if you don't, you shouldn't be listening to any of it. So at that point, if you think you want to really hurry up the process, it shouldn't be a question in your mind of do you pay or not. But I've seen some cheap people here, and it's really amazing because I would hate to live in their house with that level of mentality. For instance, someone just posted, and I had to respond to it, they said, hey, I'm having trouble finding these markets where I'm at in Massachusetts. And there's a site that looks like it might have some, but you have to pay $1 for the first month and $50 each month after that. I don't want to do that. And I'm looking at him like, so you're having all this trouble. You're posting online. You're wasting all this time that you could be investing. And you couldn't even spend $1 and just use this service for 1 month? So what is wrong with you? I don't want to live in your house, and personally, I don't want you to do it in this. I don't want you to be an investor in this price range. Someone that cheap is going to give me a cheap house with cheap quality and be a slumlord. I don't want you there until you change and learn how to invest in your business. If it costs $1 for you to look at all these properties, you need to pay the $1. What's $1? You probably spent that without thinking about it on iTunes the other day. And I work with clients too, and I recommend this site called Rental Meter. Rentalmeter.com gives you accurate rents. Yeah, I am telling you, it is so accurate on getting rents all over the country. My clients are from all over the country, New York, California. We invest all over the country, and it is dead on accurate and then some. And they get down to it, and they're using it, and it's working, and it's perfect, and they're getting good analysis, and they go, oh, well, I just found that it has $10 an hour for a pro plan to keep using Rent-A-Meter after your first 10 properties. And I'm looking at them like, and they're like, I didn't want to pay. And one girl, she's like, she admitted it. She's like, Lisa, I didn't want to pay. I've spent 25 hours trying to go on Craigslist, trying to get the information, and I just settled in and paid the $10. I don't know what world you're in, but why would you even do that when the amount is so little? So, you know what I mean? So it's like, you got to get out of that mindset. You can't be cheap like that. If you're going to be cheap like that, I don't know if you're going to give someone the good product. You're buying a house for $20,000, $30,000. You could spend a little money on investing in your business to make sure your business is a reflection of who you want it to be. And do you want your business to be a reflection of you spending 25 hours trying to get the information off of one property or 2 properties that you could have gotten in 10 minutes by paying $10 for a month? So just understand, it's okay to pay for quality resources that you know work. If it's one of these things where you go to a seminar, you don't really know them, you don't have any history, they don't have any videos on the internet, they don't have any free content, be skeptical at that point. You don't know them well enough to invest $15,000 or $19,000 for fortune builders, and these are real prices. I'm not joking. Do you know them well enough? And I'm not saying the programs are bad. I'm just saying, do you know them well enough to invest in them? Whereas today, there's no excuses because you can read books by people. You can find people in bigger pockets, and they specialize in tax liens. Go to their sites, buy their $5, $10 book. You can know them before you invest in anything higher quality or a coaching program, which usually costs more because you're paying for their time to spend on you before you make those decisions. So that's what I say. I always love books. There's really only pros at that point. The only con is that it will be cookie cutter. It won't be specific necessarily to your price range. I like free websites. Websites are good for getting you a jump start and giving you an overall outline. But just understand websites are limited, small little articles. They're not necessarily A to Z. And if they are, they might be really cookie cutter. Because like I said, no one was talking about these neighborhoods until I came along. Everybody held their nose up like something was smelly, you know, like there was a smelly diaper in the room. So understand that you might not have an audience that understands those neighborhoods, the people, and the price range of what you're working for, or give you a device that says, you know, find a market that works for your budget versus trying to make your your budget work for your market when that doesn't always work. So websites can be limited, and it's limited by the people who are there. But they're also good for you finding the people so you can become comfortable with them. So if you do want mentoring and coaching, you should be very comfortable by the time you reach out that person understands they're successful in what they do and understand what your goals are because it's similar to what they're doing. So please use it as a resource and a gateway to get to the people who really can, or the websites that really can give you that A to Z instruction. And I like mentoring and coaching. I have people who have had bad experiences and people have wonderful experiences. I think the difference is how well do you know the people before you jump in. The people who had the worst experience didn't know the people at all. There wasn't any free content. And the people who have had the best results have people who they knew exactly who, what, where they were getting when they went forward with it. And so I will always recommend it. It's just going to be a faster, holistic, you get all the answers to your questions when you want and where you want it. But that's the difference between a book, a website, and coaching. You know, how much time do you have to spend trying to get the answers to a question so you can keep moving? And some people are on a 2-year time frame. You know, go the books and website routes. And some people are on a faster timeline. They're like, I'm getting older, or I want to have 5 houses by the time I'm 35, and they're 30. And they're just like, I just want to do this quickly. I don't have time to waste. I don't have money to waste. Whereas if you go with the book and website, you're going to make newbie mistakes. If it was easy, everyone would just make money, right? That's not how it goes. So you're going to make those learning mistakes everyone, including myself, have made. So understand the limitations of them, and don't be $10 cheap when it comes to getting good information that I've seen people do. And just get your head on right on getting the resources you need and access to the people that you want to get. So some common questions I get: should I go solo or partner my first deal? I 100% recommend you go solo. Partnerships are good later on when you have experience, but when you have 2 new investors who don't know what they're doing, you're going to have not only the stress of real estate investing, but you're also going to have the stress of a partnership with their different ways of doing things, or releasing information, or sharing information, or maybe their work ethic is different. Maybe they don't work as hard as you, or maybe they work way harder and expecting you to do more, and you're like, I didn't expect that going in. So I recommend do it solo so you get experience and you know what you're doing and you know what you want, and then if you partner in the future, you know exactly the direction you are going. And, you know, don't relinquish your control. So that's what I recommend. Although it is tempting to want to do this as a partnership with someone so you can share some of the burdens and the costs, you usually get more burdens and costs unless you're absolutely sure of who that person is. And I've seen a lot of them go downhill, so you choose it. But I think you should always go solo. And you can do it solo. It doesn't have to be a scary thing. You know, all of you guys do have the ability to do it. Should I wholesale to build initial capital? Pass. Spend that 8 weeks to 9 weeks shaping your money up, figuring out ways to cut costs, get extra money, get out of debt, because that's what you're going to need going forward. So what are you going to do with all that capital and bad credit? You know what I mean? You're going to have to fix that. It's just, that's part of it. And so, you know, maybe you start in 9 months and I start in 2 months because I'm getting ready. Take the 9 months to fix yourself, to fix your financial profile. That is what I say to do. You can do it. Everyone has. There are people who were $150,000 in debt, made a few sacrifices and change, and they're out of it in 3 years. Be that person. You can do it. What can you do to the initial capital? Well, this is sort of funny. No one's really going to give you money like that if you haven't proven anything. Okay, so right now you're just a blank slate. If you've proven nothing, it's hard for anyone to want to work with you because you want me to risk my money with you, and you can't prove that you've been able to do a rental property. You haven't been able to prove that you have good credit or that you have any money. So just understand that's a human response, right? Like, it's like, am I going to give $10,000 to a 10-year-old kid who's never done anything with $10,000? No, he hasn't proven anything. It's different when I'm analyzing an adult who did show that they have $10,000 themselves to the bank. They have this going for them, and, you know, they pay their debts back. That's why they have good credit. So you got to understand that. So it's okay if no one gives you money, but you can make some up and earn some. Getting out of consumer debt, because this isn't a vacuum, a lot of this will be on your personal credit, is part of that. Cleaning up $10,000 worth of debt can earn you $10,000 for your capital. That's why I say take the 6 to 9 months or a year to do that, rather than wholesaling, because you're going to have to do that anyways. But then you'll learn, once you learn how to get out of consumer debt and get that money, even if you spend it for a property, you'll know how to get that money again. So that's why we want to get you to that point, because we got to be able to get you that first initial capital, but then you'll know exactly what to do to get that much again. So this is a repeatable process. And there are a few non-traditional ideas to get capital that's needed. I don't go into too much detail here, but I'll get even further than what you've seen on my site and old free videos on using credit cards like a boss, because I know I do. Using lines of credit as a boss and being really smart about tapping into different resources that you have. But this is sort of a short introductory lesson. I just want you to know it exists. So those are just a couple of things to do about building initial capital. We have more resources for you if you stay tuned. That is it for part 1. Thank you all for coming by. I appreciate it. I hope this advice put you in the right mindset and frame of mind about how to go about investing. When we go to part 2, I'm going to go in more detail about finding the market that fits the budget you want and what that entails. And what that entails for you. Like cookie cutter advice doesn't work, and a little bit more information on if you do have a budget or what goals or what minimum financial means you need to start investing in order for you to do it more safely without being over leveraged. So I'm going to give you a little bit more accurate or targeted goals and numbers and explain those numbers to you and why that's the minimum and ways that you can reach that, as well as find the market you want to continue. So I hope this was very helpful for all of you. And thank you so much, and stay tuned for part 2, which you can get by opting in on at affordablerealestateinvestments.com /part 2 to opt in to get the remaining videos. So thank you so much.